the Mississippi Crop Situation Podcast featuring the Crop Doctors.
Good morning from the Row Crop Short Course in Starkville. We have another one of our platinum sponsors with us this morning, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. We've got Mr. Mike McCormick, Justin Ferguson, and then Craig Hankins. What do you call that? Is he lurking in the back, Justin?
Lurking. That's a great word.
That is a good word.
Maybe he's hovering. We did get him to sit down, though.
Creeping.
So, we only have 4 mics. Craig graciously took the 5th seat. So
We do have a large cave, though, and plenty of room for additional seating should we need it.
yeah, we got seating for 20 in here if we had it, or room for seating for 20. Thank y'all so much for sponsoring the meeting. Naturally, with Mississippi State, a very, very valuable. We value the relationship that we have with Farm Bureau, and I confess, Mike, this is a apology specifically to you. I fumbled this podcast last year at this meeting, and we recorded it, and then we didn't have any sound. Everything was there in the file except for the sound. Craig, you've been on a couple times with us, but you came to the station and
He rescued that and bailed it out of the ditch because we'll call that a technical glitch. That's the thing. It's not like we went to school for this.
yeah. So we had Mike on. It was a couple of days after the 100th year celebration, and we were so thankful that he was able to make it, and then I fumbled it. So I apologize, Mike.
Well, they kept it all quiet, and I didn't know a thing in the world about it till just a few seconds ago. So
Well, maybe you shouldn't have said anything, Jason.
Maybe you shouldn't have told that, but either way, it's fine. It's great. It's all good.
I was going to echo what Jason said. We couldn't do this meeting without the support that we get, the generous support from sponsors, and y'all. The working relationship we have with y'all throughout the year is really important. So, and this being the platinum sponsor content, y'all really need to take the time to talk about what you want to talk about. I know Justin over there's got a little cheat sheet.
Well, we're just thankful that we can be a part of this great team effort to support our farmers and ranchers here in the state. And what y'all do is great, getting the information out. But we feel obligated to help Mississippi State because they give so much back to our members and our farmers around the state. So we appreciate the great teamwork, the stakeholder group mentality that we have here in the state, and we appreciate you two guys especially.
You want to talk convention?
Yeah, so we just finished our convention. We do that every year, the first weekend in December. It's been that way since, I guess, the organization was started a little over 100 years ago. And had a great meeting down in Jackson, a great group of speakers, probably the best that we ever had, and got a lot of good updates for our members. Had a great time, and then we capped it all off with yesterday discussing policy for this upcoming year and things that we wanted to have in our policy book that our farmers felt like we need to be working on, and that went great yesterday as well. So overall, I think it was a fantastic meeting with a great crowd. Y'all got a great crowd here, but we were fortunate enough to have a great crowd down in Jackson as well. So great speakers. One that I'm very proud of. We had a former White House spokesman and now a Fox News reporter, commentator, Kayleigh McEnany, was our keynote speaker. Her dad played football here back in the late 70s and early 80s, was captain of the football team. She was very excited about coming to the state, and we were able to give her an official Mississippi State jersey with her dad's playing number on it and a cowbell with her name and his number on it. And she sent us a picture yesterday of it up in her office at Fox News, hoping maybe we can get her to ring that on television today. So we're watching to see if we can get that pulled off or not. But a great convention and great crowd, and the most important part of it is to make sure our policy is right for our members. So when we're down at the legislature dealing with hot button issues in Washington D.C., what Justin does for us every day, that we have the right direction that we need to carry for our members.
So Justin, speaking of Washington, what's going on in Washington?
Well, it's been an interesting year. I was in town last week, and we partner with Mississippi State, support the Thad Cochran Ag Leadership Program. So we had the third class in town. They take, it's a 2-year program, and they take time to visit different parts of the state, and they go to Washington for a week and understand their knowledge, better understand the policy process, talk about, kind of who Thad Cochran was, and had such an impact on, ag policy, especially from a Southern ag perspective. So we were in town last week, and we had one of our guest speakers who's worked in D.C. for about 20 years. He said, this is the most interesting historical time frame that I've ever seen during his tenure in Washington, with all the back and forth and challenges, I guess, if you will, within the Republican caucus. As far as ag policy, Congress is we're kind of in limbo right now on a couple major items. One of which is the 2023 Farm Bill. Federal government, their budget year runs September 30th to October 1 every year. So this particular fall, a couple months ago, Congress had not gathered together on their 12 appropriation bills. So what they had to do was to pass a continuing resolution, which basically just funds the government short period of time at current levels. And so they got to September 30th. We had no farm bill and we had no budget. And so Congress kicked the can, per se, through about the middle of November the 18th to be exact. Still, because of much of the challenges with the speaker's race and the ability for Congress to get together in the House, they could not still come to an agreement, and so they kicked the can, I guess, if you will, another time. So we're operating right now from a budget standpoint under another continuing resolution that runs through January the 19th for the ag appropriation piece. With that continuing resolution that passed on November 18th also included a one-year extension of the current Farm Bill, which means all current programs, whether it's ARC PLC, whether it's conservation, or all remain exactly at the levels they're at now. Most of the programs had authority through the end of the year, but this at least gives some stability for one more year. And Congress will have again from now to September 30th of next year to pass a new 5-year farm bill. That's going to be tricky because when they return after the holidays, early January, they'll have 10 or 12 legislative days to get half of those appropriation bills done. Half of them expire in January, half of them expire in February. That's CR. They did something very unusual this year, which was to split that up. There's 12 appropriation bills that fund the federal government. So they'll spend, they could spend, I would, could see them that playing out through March, April. And this year is an election year. And so all legislative business will come to a halt basically in July, because from August to November, it'll be election season. So I'm a little not crazy optimistic about Congress going through the full exercise of passing a farm bill this year, even in 2024, given this time frame that they've got to get the budget situated first, and then that only allows them a couple months to get a farm bill. Staff are working on drafts. Nobody has seen those drafts because they're keeping them very, very close. But we're kind of in limbo, like I said, Jason, to sum it up. But that's kind of where things are.
Senate and House have different opinions of what that bill might look like, either, and also from one side of the aisle to the other. So to try to keep the disagreements down, to try to keep the thing moving in a bipartisan way, they try to keep it quiet and behind the scenes of their negotiations from a staff perspective that really is the ones that do all this work. So I think they're coming along, but it's just the time frame and probably the wrong year that we're going to have to deal with this in election year to try to get something done and get it across the finish line.
Even if they do get something done, do you see all that much changing in that farm bill? Probably
not. I'm probably going to see a lot of the same things that we've seen in the past. So it's a lot of decisions got to be made on the CCC, the commodity credit stuff, and how it funds moving forward, and what we're going to do with that money, and how do you get a funding for $1.5 trillion farm bill that only 20% of it is related to agriculture at the most. So we're kind of caught in that situation to where the majority of the negotiations are going to take place out of Title I and the Farm Bill. But at the same time, we know that there's not enough votes, especially on the House side, with a lot of our House members coming from larger metropolitan areas that don't have agriculture in their district. You've got to tie that bill to a larger farm bill debate on nutrition to be able to get it across the finish line.
More locally, state level, what are you two really focused on within Mississippi right now?
Well, we're getting geared up for a legislative session down in Jackson. It'll be a long session, 120 days. The first term of every session is longer than the rest of them. So the longer they're there, the more things get brought into the conversation of things that might need to get fixed and things that we have to watch over. I think you're going to see the legislature focusing on some things that aren't in our wheelhouse as far as agriculture is concerned. They've got to do something with the state retirement plan that may be important to you guys. That's got to be dealt with. There's a tremendous amount of unfunded money in that's got to be figured out how they're going to take care of that long term. They're going to go back in and look at K through 12 and see how we can up the funding there to get more funding for K through 12 education. Now, Farm Bureau will step into that for two specific reasons. One's going to be that there's some talk about upping the cap or eliminating the cap on ad valorem taxes to be able to pay for that. And we're going to say that the state is right, that we do need to spend more money on K through 12, but it's unfair to push that mandate back down to the county level and force the supervisors to raise our ad valorem taxes, which are already too high in a lot of places around the state. This is becoming a burden on trying to figure out how you can maintain your property and keep it with the tax base of what we're having to pay ad valorem taxes on. We'll watch that, the funding mechanism of it, and the other end of that is if they take too much money for K through 12, where does that leave our university systems? Where does that leave IHL? Where does that leave us for research money for what you guys do? So we'll watch over that and help toe the line that we don't go across and start taking money away from other things that we need to fund. But there'll be some things that we have to get directly involved with, and I talked about it just a little bit in there a little while ago, and it's a very hot topic, a big issue with farmers that are hearing about it on the news, and that is foreign ownership of land. No one wants China to own our farmland here. No one wants them to own any land next to military bases. But we're going to have to be careful with how we write a bill. There's a lot of unintended consequences that could happen if we do it the wrong way. We've asked the National Ag Law Center to come into the state, do some presentations before a study committee that the legislature set up last year that Farm Bureau requested, so we can make sure that we get a bill done that accomplishes what the state wants us to do to protect our farmland, but also doesn't have any unintended consequences that'll come back to bite us. Like in the state of Arkansas, they passed a very restrictive law, and now Syngenta, the world's largest seed company, the third largest seed company, the world's largest crop protection products company, who has a research station in Arkansas, is not going to be able to stay there. They're going to have to move out. And I'm not sure that's good for our southern farmers. I don't think you can do that research in Canada or China or wherever else that's got to go. The research needs to be done here. And the federal government ignored what we were telling them with Farm Bureau. We wrote letters saying this is a bad idea to sell a company like this to a state-owned entity of China, but they did it anyway. And it started under a Democratic regime, and it was finalized under a Republican regime. So it's not one side of the aisle or the other that's doing this and selling these things to foreign countries. But the farmers will be the one that'll have to pay the price for it if we don't watch out for it. So we've got some research stations here in the Mississippi Delta that may or may not be deemed as foreign owned. Bayer has one that's very important to our farmers, and we're going to go back and say, don't create a problem that doesn't exist. We need some kind of exemption for that research to be done here in the state. But we also know that we don't want countries that are on the list of bad actors to be able to buy farmland here in Mississippi. And so we'll be shepherding that through to make sure we get it through, that it goes to the right governmental agency to regulate, because that's the biggest thing. We don't want a farmer that's selling land or trying to buy land to have it tied up in some government bureaucracy for 2 or 3 years while they try to determine who actually owns the farmland. We've got to do something that flows and actually accomplishes what we want it to do. So we got to get it at the right place to be regulated, and we got to get it to do the right thing, to block the countries that we want to block with that. So I think you'll see the legislature take that up early in the process this coming year and get something out on that very quickly, and Farm Bureau will be watching over that. There'll be some other issues, but those are some that we'll be watching.
Well, Mike, Justin, Craig, thank y'all so much for spending part of your morning with us. Thank you for your gracious sponsorship of the short course, and then most importantly, thank you for supporting all of our programs at Mississippi State. Again, we really value the relationship that we have with Farm Bureau.
Thank y'all for letting us be part of the team.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
The Mississippi Crop Situation Podcast is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.